Hello and welcome to iCore's CIO Roundtable. I'm Greg Lake, Chairman and one of the senior consultants at iCore. Today's topic for discussion is the IT skills gap. And with me today are three senior IT executives from very different sectors. Before we get underway and into the topic, let's just ask them all to introduce themselves. Helen, can I start with you, please?
Yes, you can, Greg. So I'm Helen Pizzey. I'm the Director of Corporate IT, Security and Platform Compliance for a company called Masabi, who are a software as a service organisation. So we provide a fair payment platform for transport providers. So if you've ever travelled on National Express or Northern Rail, then you will have used our app to buy a ticket. And we are a global organisation, so we've roughly got 200 agencies across the world who use our app and our platform.
Fantastic, thank you. Dom?
My name is Dominic Howson. I'm the CIO for a company called Viridor. Viridor are the UK's largest energy from waste operator. We also have a plastics recycling business, which we've just added to an acquisition of a Norwegian-based pyrolysis oil business. So that's us.
Brilliant, thank you. And last but not least, Rick?
Hi, I'm Rick Farrow. I'm Exec Director of Strategy and Transformation for DHU Healthcare. So they're the largest provider of 111 and big emergency care provider across the Midlands and south of the UK.
Perfect. Thanks, folks. Right, let's get into topic then. So the IT skills gap, and I'll read a definition from McKinsey on what that actually means. I'll read this carefully. An information technology IT skills gap is a mismatch between the knowledge an employer needs to meet business objectives and the capabilities of the organisation's employees. So just don't have the right skills and experience to match what you're trying to do. So that's the definition, and just a few stats that I pulled out. Again, mostly McKinsey's, but also a LinkedIn survey and a bit of Deloitte's in here as well. So 9 out of 10 organisations report encountering the IT skills gap or expect it to hit them in the next 3 years. 64% of companies said that developing or training their staff to close the IT skills gap was their #1 priority. So people are taking it seriously. And finally, only 34% of employees felt supported by their companies and training and development of new skills to allow them to fill that gap. So a bit of a mismatch there between it being a priority for some companies, but then actually training their employees. But let me start by asking, is that definition, the skills, IT skills gap, is that something that you recognise within your own companies? Dom, perhaps, can I start with you?
I don't necessarily think, I think there's lots of ways to skin this cat, right? And I think there's, and I don't mean to say that flippantly, but there are lots of different ways to approach this. And what is a skills gap? I think there's an availability challenge in lots of different skill sets across the IT industry. I think I don't think there's probably more jobs than there is talented people out there. People tend to hold on to their really high talent, high caliber people. They don't tend to be floating around in the ether for you to get your hands on them. So I think it's an availability challenge rather than a skills gap, and that can manifest itself as a skills gap. I think certainly, but you can't just fill a skills gap by recruiting. I think you have to find a balance between training your internal staff, developing their skills, challenging them in different areas. Where can you bring people with particular, maybe legacy skills, if that's a word you could use, people that have skills and experience on particular platforms? How can you train them into becoming more familiar with newer technology or newer ways of doing things? I think it's a combination of all those things: recruiting externally, developing your own, growing your own as well. So growing your own, I mean, graduate programs, apprentices, bringing them on and bringing them through into technology roles. I think it's sort of all those different levers to sort of close that gap, and actually also train your business users so they don't rely on IT quite as much. So it's sort of a whole mix of things to bring together that actually, if there is such a thing as a skills gap, whether that's availability or not, then there's lots of different ways to close it, which is a long rambling answer.
No, it's good. Rick, what about you?
I've probably been reading the same reports as you, Greg. So I do keep an eye on the sort of Gartner and McKinsey's, and 64% of the execs that were surveyed by McKinsey said that the availability and the ability to bring in talent at pace was the major barrier to innovation and getting things done within the business. So if the exec are talking about it, then we all have to sit up and listen, don't we? And I think that comes at a difficult time when, if you look at LinkedIn, you look at some of the stuff that's coming out of Gartner, they're saying that digital budgets and IT budgets are increasing generally. So there's been an awful lot of money pumped into things like automation, RPI, and prevailing winds with AI, and some fantastic technologies coming out now that have the transformative ability to change business fundamentally. The thing is getting hold of the staff to get them in and do it. And I agree with Dominic. I think it's not everywhere, but generally, I think cyber in particular, there is a real dearth of quality cyber individuals, especially at the management level. And simple things like architecture. So what I was paying for, I employed a enterprise architect back in 2019, and I remember I thought we'd agreed a good fee at £78,000. Well, now that's six figures just 3 years later. Mm-hmm. So that inflation on the salaries is, it's not necessarily maybe not a lack of resources, but the cost to bring those people in, and what that cost then means to the business, the value, the project, and it's a real challenge. And I don't think it's one we can take lightly. So yes, I as per Dominic, I won't ramble on, but yeah, I definitely see that there is a skill shortage or availability of specific skills to bring them in at a reasonable price is a massive problem.
Okay, thanks. Helen, are you seeing that as well?
Yeah, I'm seeing both availability and cost. I mean, some of my developers, they're on six figures and they wouldn't get out of bed for less. And they know that organisations will pay. So, we mentioned there that you don't see the good people out in the ether. They're out in the ether if they think they can get more money. I mean, we're struggling with cyber, so I'm looking for somebody, to fill a cybersecurity role. Data analysts and scientists are one of the areas that I really significantly struggle with, and our organisation collects a huge amount of data about our riders, and what they, how they travel around cities, and we use that data. We cannot find good data scientists, and you mentioned architecture. We've just found a kind of an enterprise architect. But we're finding that even he has weakness in his skills. So we are, certainly I'm seeing it across the board. But I think the biggest one at the moment, the two big ones for me are data analysts and scientists. I also am seeing, unfortunately, skill deprivation in terms of AWS. So AWS has such a huge vast different technologies that we're just trying to find DevOps, for example, who understand the AWS footprint is also a problem as well.
Okay. So similar experiences then, and sounds as though some of the areas are very similar across the organisations. What impact is it having? Because I accept Dom's, there are many levers to pull to resolve this. It's not just one. But are you having to delay things? Is it actually stopping you or delaying you in reaching your business objectives? I don't know who wants to take that one first, but I'm interested to know what kind of impact it's having.
Sorry, I'm happy to go first. It's we're having to delay specific features on our platform because we don't have the skills. We offer a payments gateway. So when you pay with your credit card or whatever method you choose, we handle that payment as a merchant of record. Finding relevant skills which are becoming niche in that area is very difficult. So we're finding we're having to delay delivery of various features. Onboarding of new agencies is also delayed because, again, we haven't got the skills to go as fast as we would like, which in turn affects our recurring revenue. So it kind of hits at all areas of the organisation.
Okay, Rick. Sorry, Tom.
It's interesting. So, well, I mean, I can give you a clear example from our business. So we've been trying to build our journey to the cloud now for the last year. But because we've got so much growth in the operational business, where infrastructure specialists and especially sort of senior IT leaders are having to get involved with design and implementation, running the project, and really getting in amongst it, because especially healthcare, it does move very quickly in relation to 111 in particular. And we recently mobilised a large new call centre in the Birmingham area, which we had to do in sort of 10 weeks, 12 weeks. Whereas anywhere else would have done that, it's been sort of half a year or even a year at times. So what I'm finding is, because the contextual awareness of the IT leaders, they understand the who, the where, the what, and the why. So they can come in, and if they have the right skills, they can actually apply that and say, right, we'll put that in AWS. We can do that hybrid. We've got to do that because of the data. We've got to retain that internally. It's a mix of that contextual awareness and the ability to scan what's out there in the market. So were I to bring in a senior infrastructure engineer to actually start a build, they're still relying on that design capability. They're still relying on the knowledge of people within my teams to say, well, actually, validation, verification, are we doing the right thing? Are we doing that thing right? Is putting in an AWS going to make it cheaper? Is it going to make it more resilient? Is it the right level of security, etc.? So what I'm finding is people that we're bringing in are only marginally affected because they then have to learn the context. And I think that's the same for any business. But if I think, Helen, you said, if you bring someone in with the right skill set and the right experience, you can then start to weave that context around what they already know, and it becomes a much better proposition for everybody. But it is getting those people right, because I'm a big advocate of the lines between business and IT and tech and cyber. They're all merging, and we know this has been happening for the last sort of 10-15 years. So we're going to get to a stage at some point where we can put a request into a company and an AI will develop 80% of a system for you. And I think that will alleviate some of these problems greatly. It will cost us, and there is inherent risk in doing it that way. Mm-hmm. But that's the way this is all evolving. And I think that's probably the only way we're going to be able to close some of these skill deficits. It's incredibly exciting time to be in tech because of those, but also, I guess, also an incredibly disruptive time for people's jobs, skills, families, and our communities.
Indeed. Dom, I'll cut you off there, but I guess you're going to say similar things.
I was going to say, I don't think it's delaying us per se. I think we get into more longer term third-party relationships to plug your gaps. I think that's definitely my experience. Lean on third parties. Yes, they probably still got the same skills gaps, but you can make sure you lean on the right vendors or keep you going. On the point about getting into not being able to get a hold of data scientists and data engineers, yeah, you certainly see that. But again, leaning on long-term third parties to plug that gap. I'd also think so. The other things to look at, pushing your, and might not be the case for Rick or Helen, but just certainly moving some of your development. We can certainly done that with a lot of the apps we're developing, not going particularly complicated and building low codes. You can get a much wider pool of resources to do the work on them. That's definitely something I think we'll see a lot more of. But yeah, I mean, I don't think it's necessarily slowing us down. It's just you just got to, and third parties will cost you more in the long run. But if you can get those long-term relationships with them, you can help develop their own people as well. Then if you keep the pipeline going, you're managing a pipeline with third party, you can work on the numbers. So
true. Okay, so interesting conversation. I kind of want just closing comments from each of you, if I may. I mean, we've talked about some various ways that you can close the gap down, and also Rick mentioning AI, and perhaps that's going to close it even further. In your opinion, over the next 18 months, 2 years, is this going to continue to be a problem for you, or with what you're trying to do within each of your companies, is that already improving the situation? Dom?
I think the speed of technology advancing is means that it's going to continue. And you know, we was just saying that it's a really exciting time to be in technology at the moment, but it's moving so quickly. The schools aren't keeping up, universities are not keeping up with the education plans and programs. So when they go out into the you know, into the world of work, the skills the graduates possess are not the skills that the employers demand. So that has to be addressed fairly soon. And then as we go more towards increased digitalization, again, the skills need to be there. The demand is going to increase. So I think it's actually going to potentially get worse before it gets better.
Understood. Thank you. Dom?
I was going to say, having helped, well, tried to help my 16-year-old study for computer science GCSE, there's nothing he's learning in that that's going to plug a skills gap, I can tell you that right now. So that's certainly something that we need to pick up on, picking up Helen's point about we're not doing enough at an educational layer. I'd just like to come back. Some of the best bit of experience I've had in the last couple of years is finding the golden nuggets in the business that you could develop. Maybe not always look inside your technology team or necessarily in your partners, but you know, we couldn't find a particular couple of resources to fit an org structure we were putting together. So we've actually developed our own people and given the opportunity, given the headspace and the opportunity to learn by supplementing the immediate need with third-party resources where we need them. I think that's it. We could. It's just a classic old technology leaders thing. You got to spin all those plates going and find a way through it. All right, we always end up doing a fairly good job of it. It's just you just got to get through it. I think it's not going to get any easier, and certainly the education stuff I've seen in recent years isn't going to get us to where we need. Isn't going to plug a gap in the near term. So yeah, we just got to work our way through it.
All right, brilliant. Rick, final word to you, sir.
Yeah, so I guess you know, agreeing with both Helen and Dominic, I think you know, as I said in my last point, the contextual awareness of the business, knowing you know the who, the how, the what, and the why, that's half the battle. So if you can bring supply chain in, and to be honest with you, I would say technical supply chain is probably an hour conversation on its own, to be honest, because it can be the best of the best and the worst of things done properly or improperly. So I guess from my perspective, I think I'm looking to build better, smaller, more empowered teams to actually either pull people in from the business or go out to the market and find the talent or suppliers that they need without having to jump through 15 hoops for 3 days work, and it becomes very, very difficult for them to deliver at pace. So, you know, there's one or two things like that I'm looking to implement over the next few months that should make things a little bit easier for my managers, but also, you know, greater use of PMO to control those resources to ensure we've got prioritization right, business communication right, and then we're actually delivering against a program that everyone's aware of, and you know, we can risk manage and move the priority around as we often need to in health. At pace if we absolutely need to, but I don't think that the tech gap is going to get any better until we start to fully automate and digitize some of these key roles, the AI for development, for example, to Helen's point. You know, it's already making massive strides in that area, but you know, it's not marketable yet, and it's not being pushed as a, you know, this is our AI service, just go and ask it this question, but it will get there. But it may be sort of 2, 3, 5 years.
Okay, brilliant. I'd like to thank all of you for your time. Some great insights and ideas in there, and also a good view of where things are moving or not moving quickly enough. So thank you for your time. To everybody who listens to this, please let us know what you think. We'd be interested in your views as well. But for now, thank you very much. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Cheers.